guys? My name's Cisco. Instagram's at CreamPieST. This is my 2013 Focus ST. It's full bolt-on, stage 3, JS tuned. Check them out. We're gonna be doing some meth today, guys.
Alright guys, so pretty much what comes in the AEM fail-safe water meth injection kit is the supply tank. So this is what you're going to be keeping all of your water methanol mixture in. And step one on the instructions that are actually supplied is finding a mounting point for both the tank and the pump. So we're going to be doing that, but everything in the kit is pretty much supplied. It gives you all your hard lines for the water methanol itself, the harness for the controller, which it looks a little daunting, but it's not really as complicated as you would think. Well, we will get into that later. And it gives you the harnesses for to check your level on the tank, loom to help clean up the install so that you don't have loose wires. It looks really weird. And then right here is it's a nozzle that's supplied as well, and it gives you different nozzle sizes. Yeah, everything else comes with like some butt connectors and things to make life a little bit easier when it comes to wiring. We don't have a solder available right now like we did with the rally lights, but we'll make it work. So yeah, let's get into finding a good mounting position for all of this stuff. So the tank and the pump, and that's going to be actually in the rear of the car. And yeah, let's get into that. So in the instructions, it's recommended that you, well, it's pretty much, you have to do it. You have to mount the tank lower than the nozzle is going to be up in front. So you want to mount it as low as you possibly can when it comes to, the feed location. So you want to, this is where we're going to decide to mount it right here. That way the feed location is actually going to be below the nozzle. So we don't run into any, drainage issues, because if you mount it up here, gravity is just going to naturally cause all of the fluid to drip into the nozzle, and it causes a lot of problems when it comes to possible hydrolocking, just because if all of the fluid is drained into the intake system, it's just a really bad situation. So we're going to mount this right here, and then as for the pump, we're thinking maybe having it in line somewhere on the floor here, or the bottom of the car, just to keep it as close to the tank as we possibly can. So we'll get it all mocked up and then show you guys what it looks like after. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's a bunch of ash on my car and all of our cars, because unfortunately the world is on fire right now. Yeah, it's pretty bad, and this is kind of the conditions that we're working in right now, but we're out here, we're making it happen. We're still making it happen, so yeah.
And we're disconnecting the battery so we avoid electrical shock.
Alright, so we went ahead and secured the tank to the actual plastic trim right here. And then the pump, we drilled into the floor, and with these 4 points right here, and it's locked in place. And then we went ahead and ran the line right here and fed it into the pump, and now it's going straight to the front of the car. We decided not to go underneath the car just because we didn't want to cut into this too much. But we have it running through right here, and here it is right here. We're just going to run it and kind of tuck it into everything. And now we're just trying to figure out a way to route it up into the firewall. That way we can get it into the engine bay. So yeah. Alright, so we actually managed to take the glove box out completely. So it's just going to be this screw right here. There's a screw on the other side right over here, and then just some Torx bits on the top section here. And then if you look underneath there, it'll be on the bottom in this area. But once you get that out, there's a grommet for the wiring harness that comes into through the firewall into the cabin right there, and that's where we have our hard line going through. And we managed to actually get it to go through to the grommet into through the firewall. and then into the engine bay. So here's the hard line right here for the water meth, and then once we get the spacer right here, once we get that set in place, then we'll actually be able to start mocking up where we want to locate this in the engine bay. But first we got to take off the intake manifold, that way we can get to the throttle body. So yeah. All right, so we got the intake manifold off. If you don't know how to do it, you have your map sensor plug right here, and then there's a plug for the throttle body that's going to be down here. It's kind of hard to get your hands underneath everything while it's in the car, so it's good to just, you know, loosen up the 3, 4, 5 bolts holding it in, so that way you can kind of have some leverage on it and actually get some space in the hand down there. But yeah, what we're going to be doing and why we took this off is because this little spacer here is going to go right here. It's actually going to go this way, and it's going to it's going to basically space out the throttle body from the intake manifold and allow us to tap into it with a nozzle for the water meth. So that's where our injection point is going to be for the water meth. And a good thing to keep in mind, and why this upgrade is also beneficial for these cars, is because they are direct ejected, so they're very prone to carbon buildup on the valves, and we've explained that in earlier videos, but I don't know if we can get a good shot of the valves here. I don't know if you can see it right now, but it's kind of hard to focus on the valve. But the buildup is actually pretty bad on these ones, just the mileage on it. But one thing that's positive about the water meth is that it'll actually inject the water and methanol into the system and clean the valves, and it'll help aid in the cleaning of them. So pretty good advantage when you're thinking about keeping reliability on the car. So yeah, definitely recommend it if you're interested in cleaning the valves. Also, another way you could do it is auxiliary fuel, which I actually have on my car, and that actually helps clean the valves as well. So now what we're gonna do is get all the 4 bolts for the throttle body off of the intake manifold, and then install the spacer right here. That way we're gonna have a connection to where we're gonna install the nozzle for the water meth. And we have to figure out a way to orient it so that we still have enough space to route the line and not run into fitment issues. And yeah, and this also is the PCV line that goes on the back of the intake manifold that you need to take off to get it out of the car. So there's a couple lines that you need to take off for that. Not too difficult, but you know, just take your time. Don't break anything, because there are some clips that you have to, you know, slide off of some tabs. But yeah, we'll continue with the install and then show you guys what that looks like with the spacer on and everything put back together. And then we'll start mocking up the fitment for the hose, which is right here, and then finding a good home for it in the engine bay. All right, so we have the spacer in place, and we also installed the nozzle for the water meth here. And now that we have all this set up, before we put everything back together, we're going to need to wire up the entire system, actually test it, and flush out any of the contaminants out of the entire water meth system. That way we have a fresh flow when we actually end up running the car. So right now we're going to start on the wiring, get everything wired up here, and then go from there, run the tests, and start putting it all back together. We're going to start at the back here. This right here is the leads for the actual reading of the level of the water meth mixture. We're going to need to run the 2 powered lines, power and ground, to the pump here from the actual controller harness. And then same with these, we're going to need to run the wires that are going to send the signal to the controller saying whether or not you need to refill the container or not. So we're going to start back here and then work our way up, and we'll show you, I'll probably put it up right now, the wiring diagram for everything, but we'll go through everything, like all the wiring, what we did and connected, so that it'll give you a good idea of what you need to do when you're doing all the wiring yourself. So yeah, just getting ready to wire everything up, everything soldered back together, everything soldered, period. Yeah. Alright, so right now we just got our power ground, which is right here, and our vacuum line for the boost monitor system on the controller here. We routed the vacuum line kind of stealthy to make it look a little bit more clean, but all we had was, unfortunately, were zip ties. Probably change in the future, but this is just for us to test right now. It's basically just to read the charge pressure, so like in PSI or bar, so that way it can send that boost signal to the controller, and then the controller can compensate by spraying a little bit more water meth. So, and then it'll engage the pump to, you know, start actually pumping. So our power's here, our ground's here. We just got to connect those two. I'm already in the process of tightening the power right here, the hot side, and then the ground is going to go right here on the factory ground position. And I'm pretty sure after we wire in the little LED, we can actually start testing the system. So yeah, we're going to get to working. We're pretty much done with mocking up all the wiring so far. It's going to be temporary. We're going to clean it up later. This is just for testing purposes. So we have our ground hooked up right here. It's the black wire from the actual harness of the controller, and this is going to be the red wire off the harness, or off of the controller as well, and that's going to go straight to it through the firewall. Now, one thing that we didn't mention was how we got all of our engine bay things into the firewall. So there was actually a grommet like deep down. It's really hard to get to, but if you can find any opening in your firewall or anything like that, that would definitely, you know, help with getting everything back or up to the top of the engine bay. But this side over here, there's also another grommet that we use to go through the firewall. It's back there. I think we mentioned it earlier and showed it earlier, but it's going to be the loom for the wiring harness that goes into the cabin. And all the other wiring is done on the car in the back where the pump and reservoir are, and then we just finished mocking up everything inside the car as well. So we go to the back of the car. Alright, so when in the back, you got your white cable from the harness, and then yeah, this is the brown cable right here, and there is a plug-in that comes with the kit that you can they're the exact same colors, so you can't get them confused. You just connect those right there, and then this is going to plug into the reservoir, and that's going to tell you the level of the methanol mixture. And then for the pump here, it's going to have a black and a red wire coming off of it. Now on the harness, your hot wire, so for power, is going to be the pink one. So you go pink to red, and then this is going to be your ground, the black wire here, so you go orange to black. And these two are both off the harness of the controller. So those go to power that, and then we'll go to the inside of the car and show you how all that works right now. Alright, so it might look like a mess, but like I said, it is going to be temporary. So this green wire is literally just a ground to anything that you can possibly get a ground to. So we went ahead and connected it right here off of this little point right here. This brown and white wire, we read on the instructions that it's for a, what was it for? A
solenoid. It's a boost solenoid.
Was it for the boost solenoid?
Yes.
Okay.
I got the instructions right.
Yeah, so let's see. The brown and white right here, it says 1.5 amp low side output, connect to optional flow control solenoid. So it's saying it is optional. I'm just assuming that it's just to, you know, give a more a better understanding of what's going on inside the engine bay. But we're gonna wait on that one just because it says it is optional. We're just testing the system right now. And then the gray and violet wires right here, they go to the LED right here. So the gray wire is going to go to the white wire off of the LED, and then this is also supplied in the kit. So yeah, gray wire goes to white, and then the violet goes to the red. So that's going to be the hot, and this is ground. So that's the LED. for the purple and gray wires. Now this yellow wire right here, this is going to be a 12 volt signal switch wire. So you're going to need to connect it to something that has 12 volts of current and is engaged by a switch, so the ignition, for example. So it's only going to turn on, it's only going to power the unit when the ignition is turned on. So we went ahead and went over to the fuse box in the passenger footwell, and we can go show you that right now. So I don't know if you can see it, but here is the yellow wire that we routed through the center console support. So yeah, this is going to be the signal wire coming from the other side where the controller is off of that harness. And it might be hard to capture, but there is a 10 amp fuse all the way on the bottom on the right side. And we tested that to see if it was a 12 volt switch current, and it is. So you're safe to connect to that. I wish we had an add a fuse connection, but sticking it in the actual port for the fuse is working and it's not coming out. So we're just gonna leave it like that. And let's go over the rest of the wires in the harness. So I believe the only wires that I haven't gone over on the inside of the car are the black and red, and these are going to be your connectors straight to the battery like we showed earlier. You just route those through the firewall. And then this vacuum line right here, it's on the controller right here. It's where you plug in. That's what supplies your boost pressure for the controller to read. So this one we routed all the way into the engine bay, as you saw earlier. We pulled all of them through at the same time, so the black, red, and the vacuum line, we pulled all of them through all at the same time. So I believe that is all the wiring here. So we're gonna fill up the reservoir in the back with some water to purge the system and make sure we get rid of any debris in the lines or anything like that. And then we'll actually put the methanol and see if this whole system actually works. So wish us luck.
What's up, guys? So the kit recommends for you guys to purge the line with distilled water, which right now we don't have any. So we're going to be using purified water since it's a recommendation. Fill it up to the top and drain it completely just to see if you got any failure. Pretty much do it like so.
So we're going to be draining the line and kind of clearing out the system. We're going to be doing it into this bucket here. So that way we know that the pump is active and going to be pumping water. That, and it'll clear all the debris or anything that could be clogged in the system itself. So yeah, let's wait on getting the water to flow, and we'll show you guys it flowing, and then connect the nozzle and see if it sprays correctly and is acting normally. And then we will purge the system still with the water. You still want to purge the system with the water, and then once you're done, you feel confident that everything has been flushed out, then you can proceed to installing the nozzle into the throttle body spacer, and then you can actually enjoy what you have installed and have fun with it. So he's holding tests right now. There it goes. I heard it. Right there. So let's do that several times, and then we're just gonna drain the entire thing of water just so we can fully clear the line. Alright, so he's pushing test, and if you see, the light is going to blink red because it's indicating that the tank is actually low. So we'll come back here, and it's pretty cool. You can hear the pump running, and as you can see, the tank is getting low. It's like right here, so we should probably stop like right now.
Stop.
See if you can finesse that.
I could finesse under my...
Oh, look at that, boost juice?
Yes. I've been waiting 3 weeks to pour this in.
So we purged the lines with the water, ran it to pretty much, it was empty. So we're able to pour in the methanol and water blend right now, and then we actually up front, so we ran all of the water lines underneath the coolant reservoir and kind of tucked them in right here. Nice, and we use the factory vacuum line little brackets here, the plastic ones. So we use that, routed it down right here into the nozzle right here. So we're ready to hit the road in a sense. We have everything hooked up electrically, everything plumbed correctly so that it's going here. We know that that is actually pumping because we poured it into the bucket using the pump. So yeah, we're gonna start her up and see if she likes the water meth without a tune. But he is gonna be getting a tune so that he can maximize the efficiency of the boost juice.
1 gallon was enough for the whole thing, just so you guys know. That's how much is left. Filled it to the top.
And yes, that is the water line. We're gonna tuck it away later, but it is what it is for now, for testing.
So we just got back from our test drive, and I did notice a little bit of power loss, which is common. My car's gonna be relearning itself, but other than that, the smell's kind of funky. And we did notice a lot of more low-end power, which was actually really nice. Once we get readjusted by JS Tuned Performance, he's got the baddest cars around. It's the only guy I trust to adjust my car. So, you know, once he goes and works his magic, we should see some different numbers, which I should get some GoPro footage to show you guys. So, you know, I hope our video interests you guys. Check it out, subscribe, tell your friends. We did some meth.